and thus brand equity while you sleep. Companies like WeatherTech have relied on AmericanEagle.com's website design and development and hosting capabilities for years. When some of the world's top brands need a reliable company to prepare their sites for high-traffic events, who do they call? AmericanEagle.com. Their clients have come to rely on them for a full line of website services, from consulting and strategy to digital marketing, hosting, and maintenance. Give the team at AmericanEagle.com a call today. 1-877-WEB-NOW. The number 1 is the number. AmericanEagle.com is the website. 1-877-WEB-NOW-1 is the number.
Lowe's is working harder than ever to help pros get the job done with a dedicated team of associates who only serve pros. They stock the top-rated brands you need, offer curbside loading, and can even deliver right to the job site. Service like that is why Lowe's is the new home for pros.
7:07, and let's get an update on the roads this morning in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center. Jim Telemonte.
CTA red and purple line service is suspended between Howard and Belmont. There's a mechanical problem on a train near Wilson. Passengers have had to be evacuated, so the power has been cut off. There is only service on the red line between Belmont and 95th. There are shuttle buses available between Howard and Belmont. Looking right now at a crash off 53 in the Arlington Heights area. This is affecting Lake Cook at Nichols. Checking traffic right now on the Kennedy. It's 20 minutes, make it 21 minutes. O'Hare to downtown. Little congestion approaching Damon. Eisenhower, 29 minutes, 390 to downtown. Stevenson runs 30 minutes, 355 to the drive, and the Ryan 17 minutes from 95th. It's traffic. I'm Jim Telemonte on AM 560 The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. In our 1-hour heating and air conditioning weather center, our meteorologist Steve Williams.
Partly sunny, couple of showers, heavy thunderstorm this afternoon, the high 81. A shower or heavy thunderstorm around this evening, otherwise partly cloudy tonight, low 59. Clouds and sun, shower tomorrow, the high at 79. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
72 degrees at O'Hare. Your next news update is at 7:30 with breaking news as it happens. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560, The Answer, online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, and your Alexa-powered smart speaker, on TuneIn, iHeart, and radio.com. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Attorney General Barr gave a wide-ranging interview to Fox Business's Maria Bartiromo over the weekend. A lot of topics covered, including updating on the Durham report. I mean, there's not a lot new there, just sort of a restatement of things Barr has said previously. But on China, he was more specific and more aggressive than he's been in the past, talking about the threat that China poses to this experiment in representative Republican form of government we have ongoing, specifically about intellectual property theft, but also prospectively about a topic we've discussed on this show before, which is control of the 5G platform and how much leverage China would have if the platform under or by which U.S. manufacturing operates was a Chinese product.
They've stolen our intellectual property. When they steal our secrets about future technology, they're stealing the future of the American people. If they start leading in some of these fundamental foundational technologies like 5G, which will be the platform of much of our future manufacturing in the United States, they will have tremendous leverage over the United States. If all our industrial practices and our manufacturing practices are built on a platform that they dominate, they will have ultimate leverage over the West. So I think this is a competition for the future. They haven't been competing fairly, and the president has confronted this when no one else has. And the American business community has been a big part of the problem, because they're willing, ultimately, many of them, to sacrifice the long-term viability of their companies for short-term profit. so they can get their stock options and move into the Gulf resort. That's what's driving some of this. They're not taking the long-term view and the national view, the American, of maintaining the American strength.
And Barr went on to say he believes that the West needs to pick a horse or a couple of horses, meaning Nokia or Ericsson, when it comes to the development of the 5G network, so you're not beholden to Huawei. But I thought his comments, particularly at the direction of the American business community, were really interesting because he contrasted the American business community of today to the American business community in World War II. And essentially said if the American business community had taken the position in World War II that they're taking today with respect to short-term interests, then we'd be speaking German today. And he doesn't want us speaking Chinese going forward. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Lieutenant Colonel Jim Carafano, Vice President of the Catherine and Shelby Cullum Davis Institute for International Studies at the Heritage Foundation and author of Wiki at War and Private Sector Public Wars. Jim, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, good to be with you. Not to get like super technical for folks, but people hear 5G and I'm not sure a lot of us understand what it means. And they go, well, what's the difference? 5G, 4G, it's just one number. But
1G.
With 5G, it's literally the difference between a calculator and a Macintosh, and an Apple computer. Two things. One is you can push so much more data through the pipes, exponentially more data. And the other thing is you can move computing power to the data. You don't have to take the data back to the computer. And these are really revolutionary changes. And the challenge with China is twofold. One is the government has a law that says anything that travels through Chinese businesses, any of that information, any of that intellectual property, essentially the Chinese government has access to that. And that's coupled with the second problem, which is the Chinese are really working on artificial intelligence and quantum computing because those are the things you need to break anything that's encrypted. So it doesn't matter how much data you have on the net that's encrypted. The Chinese will suck it all up like a Hoover vacuum, and eventually they'll figure out how to crack it and exploit it and use it and manipulate systems and information. This is really a national security challenge. There's no question about that. And it's as challenging as a German fleet sailing up to New York Harbor.
And so do you agree with Barr that even though this is not his decision to make, which he conceded, that the West should in some form or fashion, whether through encouraging private investment or maybe something more formal by the government, should be picking horses in this race and supporting Nokia and or Ericsson as the most viable alternatives, given China's got $100 billion behind Huawei in the development of their 5G?
Well, the flip side, too, we don't want China to do this, is we need solutions that are sustainable over time, that are cutting-edge technology, that enable innovation, that are cost-effective. Those are largely, when you ask for those kinds of things, those are private sector solutions. And so I think we're all looking at some kind of public-private partnership. There might be some government investment. There might be government creating a framework where free market solutions can compete fairly. It might be international in perspective. I'm sure it will be, where democracies will gather together and look for free market alternatives. We've already seen innovation and companies coming up with different things. We've got companies bringing up, for example, virtual 5G networks, things that didn't even exist a couple of months ago. So I actually think the innovation has skyrocketed since this competition was announced. And I think in short order we'll find that Huawei isn't the best, cheapest, most cost-effective, most technically best solution. And I think the West will outcompete them.
Well, what about our American carriers, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile?
I think we're seeing, this is why I love free market solutions, because the market looks for answers and they're not constrained in the way that often governments are. And so, for example, we've already got companies in which the U.S. is participating, coming out what's called virtual 5G networks, which in many ways could provide a lot of capability and a real bridge to the future. So I do think that American companies could be stronger, more established players. So I'm in the actually optimistic camp. I think we woke up just in time to the 5G challenge. I think by and large, the U.S. government has certainly responded appropriately. I think others are following our lead, which is very ironic because everybody says Trump doesn't lead, he goes alone, and everything else. And the reality is most of the free world is actually trending our way on this issue.
I wanted to play you a clip from John Bolton's interview with Martha Raddatz last night, where he characterizes his view on where America stands vis-a-vis the world after 3 years of President Trump.
Do you think U.S. national security is stronger or weaker because of President Trump?
I think we're in a weaker position around the world. I think we have given up leadership in a wide variety of areas. I saw the Trump administration as a chance to correct it, and we corrected precious little.
How do you respond to that on the substance of the policy choices the Trump administration has had and their effect on America's standing in the world?
Yeah, I mean, this for me is an easy one because I've been commenting on this, and tracking this for 3 years, long before there was a book or comments and everything else. And what I've always said is, I've never focused so much on how the sausage got ground, but really on what's the substance of policy, not the prison suites or anything else. And substantively, it's really hard to argue anything other than we're not way better off than we were 4 years ago. Iran is deeply contained. Russia is contained. China's challenged like it's never been before. Everybody admits that. North Korea has largely been checkmated. The transnational Islamist terrorist threat is way down. And as much as people complain about the U.S., then they ignore people that really are stepping up to Trump's leadership. We talked the other day about U.S.-India. India's never been closer to the United States, never been a stronger partnership in dealing with China. And all that happened because of the president. I just think the argument that somehow we've lost ground under this president in terms of protecting U.S. vital interests, you can't rationally make that argument.
Well, John Bolton said that the meeting with Kim Jong-un and that it was just a photo op and nothing was accomplished. Do you agree?
Which is disputed by the South Koreans, by the way.
And which I think is, kind of misses the point. What I would say from the beginning was the strategy of maximum pressure is perfect. Sanctions, missile defense, nuclear deterrence, conventional deterrence, that puts Kim in a very small box. That gives you the freedom to put the diplomacy option on the table. Whether Kim chooses to choose that and move forward or not, that's really kind of up to him. But the maximum pressure protects U.S. vital interests, and it creates an option for a diplomatic track if the North Koreans choose to take that. I think it was the right strategy from the beginning. I still think it's the right strategy. And people who doubt that, 2 years ago they said we were on the verge of war. They all swore we were going to have a war with North Korea. They were in their bomb shelters. And here we are 2 years later, and literally nothing has happened on the peninsula of substance in 2 years.
On another front, Bolton in his book talks about U.S. policy aimed at removing Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro, and blames Trump for the failure to do so. Mary Anastasio O'Grady has a pretty good piece in the Wall Street Journal tackling that and suggests that what really was the problem there was a colossal intelligence failure. And Bolton doesn't want to talk about that. You have to read between the lines. He wants to lay the blame at the front steps of President Trump's Oval Office, but it was a breakdown in intelligence there and understanding what the ground provided with respect to Maduro. Not so much Trump's fault with respect to a mess, obviously, he inherited from Obama.
And again, I go back to the look at the fundamentals. Venezuela, not really a vital interest for the United States, not a big deal. What we really don't want is to not have a mess in Venezuela, destabilize the region. And we also want to support the aspirations of freedom of the Venezuelan people. The president's done that consistently. And, I think, his strategy of not getting sucked into the quagmire, I think that's the right strategy. And yeah, I mean, the upshot is the opposition hasn't shown the capacity to really rise up to the challenge. It would have been ridiculous for the United States to step in deeper, which I think many people had advocated for. I think we actually got Venezuela right.
And specifically, I mean, that's where she's suggesting there was the intelligence failure in overestimating the capacity of Guaido and the opposition.
Yeah, and I think by taking a cautious approach, not essentially jumping in with 2 feet, I think that was right. And we've seen the consequences of that before when the United States steps into a situation when it doesn't really know what's going on the ground and tries to just fix everything. And it's a lot messier in places like Venezuela where it is not a vital U.S. interest. So most of these, I got to tell you, I haven't read the book and haven't listened to a lot of the interviews. But when people like you raise these issues on the policy level, I just kind of blink and I go, well, it sounds like the president was the guy that had the right answers.
Yeah, it does. I agree with you. That's why it's the whole thing is rather curious. Going back to China for a moment, since there's casualties in conflict between the Chinese and the Indians. Should we be doing more to stand with our Indian allies against the Chinese?
Well, I think it's really more up to India to kind of raise the level of the partnership with the United States. I mean, the Indians have always been reluctant or reticent, whatever the right word is, to really make it look like they have to get the United States to have their back to stand up to China. I think they're right. They're perfectly capable of standing up to China on the border. But I see this growing in India, the recognition that India's future security is in a partnership with the United States. And I think the more the Indians trumpet that, the better it is for them, and frankly, the better it is for us.
He is Lieutenant Colonel Jim Carafano, Vice President of the Catherine and Shelby Cullum Davis Institute for International Studies at the Heritage Foundation. Jim, thanks for your insights, as always. Appreciate it.
Right, thank you, guys. Thanks for such great questions.
Take care.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Presenting a good appearance is everything, a direct reflection of your business. But now you also need to ensure your employees and customers that you are providing a safe environment in which to work and do business. To keep and stay clean, team up with High PSI, Chicago's leading source on industrial cleaning equipment, accessories, and service. High PSI sells clean with the biggest selection and highest quality of industrial cleaning and pressure washing equipment in the Midwest. And now selling Vital Oxide, a hospital-grade, safe EPA-registered disinfectant cleaner. This product can be